She saw the minibus pass the kitchen window before pulling up the gravel driveway to the side of the house. It looked like a tradesman van, with metal panels where windows would normally be, and the ladders strapped to the roof racks, but there was no company name on the side of the van, and she felt her stomach tighten at the unfairness of it. Not again, not so soon. The knock was confident, but not intimidating, civilized. She opened the door. There were 3 men standing on the porch. 2 wore clean, neat blue overalls with official insignia on their pockets. The third man, who had knocked on the door, had a lighter build. He wore a conservative 2-piece suit and was approaching middle age. There was a professional, competent air about him. He looked thoroughly respectable. "Yes?" she asked. "Morning, madam," he replied affably. "This is a robbery." Inside the house, she led them to the lounge. They followed politely, conscious of their movements. "We had a team only 2 weeks ago," she complained. "Not one of ours, madam. I'm afraid we can't cooperate with the other firms. Competition, you know. You can always put in a complaint." "Well, where do you want to start?" "We'd like to put you in the picture first," replied the leader, taking a small notebook from his suit pocket. "We'd like our customers to know that they are dealing with professional people. So I'll just run through the basics." He flipped through the alphabetical tabs on the side of the book, opened to a page covered in neat penciled notes and diagrams. He read from it a confirmatory tone, pausing now and then to check that she understood the details and was happy. "Mrs. Morrison, 42 Wentworth." She nodded. He went on. "Now we've disconnected your phone at the junction on the corner, and we have a man in the street with a second vehicle just to make sure we won't be surprised by anything unexpected." He gave a small, proud smile. "We disconnected your power on arrival, and of course we'll put it back on as soon as we leave. We know how inconvenient it is to have freezer defrost and so on. The phone, however, is your responsibility as always. We know that your daughter is at work and she won't be back until 4 at the earliest. We also know that she usually telephones you at 11, so that will be," he checked his watch briskly, 2.5 hours before she notices the disconnection. Plenty of time. "We have, of course, checked out your deliveries, none of which are due this morning." He paused before flipping the notebook shut. "Yes," she said politely, "you seem very thorough. You must have spent some time checking." 2 weeks is our normal time frame," he said, finally closing the pad. "A bit unfortunate for you, really, that we didn't see the other firm come through. It must have been a little over 2 weeks ago that they called." "Yes." The next was asked a little anxiously, as though the wrong answer might introduce a note of unpleasantness. "Did they leave much?" "Oh, no, they took a lot. But we got the insurance people right away, so we've been able to replace most of it." The man was clearly relieved. "Oh, good. We hate having to extract a forfeit." "What is it at the moment?" "Windows this month," he replied, signaling to one of the other men who had been standing patiently by the window. "Of course, we break them from the inside so as to not get glass on the furnishings." "Well then, we'd better get to work." Presently, all 3 men returned to the lounge. Disregarding her for the moment, the leader spoke to his men. "Bring the stuff here, and we'll make up the inventory as we load it into the van. It'll be more efficient that way." The 2 accomplices nodded and set to work. A small pile of goods began to appear near the entrance hall. Television set, DVD recorder, kitchen appliances, some jewelry. It didn't take long. He turned to the woman. "Will you accompany me on the inspection? We won't entertain claims unless they are notified immediately." Reluctantly, she followed them from room to room, casting a sad glance at the stack of appliances on the floor. She had to admit that it was a very professional job. Except for the goods they had taken, everything was in its place. Despite herself, she had to remark on the fact. "Well, we do have standards to maintain," said the man. People still remember the old days. A brick through the window, contents strewn about. Mainly it was kids back then, amateurs. People felt as if their homes had been violated, as if they weren't safe anymore. But things have changed so much since the new legislation. We have to be accredited, audited. It puts the operation on a whole new level. "Even so," she replied, "I think we'd be better off without. Look, you've done a very good job, and you've a right to be proud of it, but I just don't see that it's really necessary." "You're talking about jobs, madam. People's livelihood. The country couldn't handle the unemployment. Nationalizing robbery was the best thing the government could do in the circumstances." It took only a few minutes for them to transfer the haul to the van. They left her with a copy of the list for insurance purposes. She was only halfway through checking it when a car flashed past the window and skidded to a halt on the gravel. Its doors fell open, disgorging a motley collection of young men. There were 4 of them, dirty, unkempt, and hardly into their teens. They pounded up the steps onto the porch and hammered on the door, rattling the frosted glass. She opened the door. The eldest leered at her, grinned, and announced himself. "Police, Mrs. Morrison." Understand you've been robbed.